Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round. I'm, of course, joined by my friend Patrick.
How's it going, everyone?
And it is time for the weekly Dead Talk. Today we are talking about Ty West's latest gritty, vintage 70s slasher, X. A very cool movie. We both really enjoyed it. And it just might be the movie to beat right now as my favorite horror movie of 2022. The year is still young, but it's the one to beat. But first, as always, horror in the news.
We do have a major milestone as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn celebrates its 35th anniversary.
Now, would you consider, because I've talked to people on the internet, would you consider Evil Dead 2 a requel? That it's kind of a sequel to the original, but it's also kind of remaking it with, like, more money?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, someone said it on, like, Reddit, and I'm like, I never looked at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I considered it more or less like a soft reboot,
Mm-hmm.
kind of as a way to like reestablish things. Because I know, for example, it was made on a very limited budget. They only had so much time to do everything. And I have a funny feeling that in a weird way, Sam Raimi just re is it re recounted. I think it's actually more along the lines of Sam Raimi wanted to redo certain things because maybe he wanted to flesh out more of his story within Resident is it Resident as of Evil Dead.
With a bigger budget this time, with the ability to actually,
Exactly.
without those limitations. But very, very cool movie.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh,
I'm a huge fan of it.
one of my personal favorites too.
I just
Absolutely
I
one of my
just I
favorite horror
just
comedies.
rewatched it like a week ago. I forget where it's streaming, but if you haven't seen it, and this thing is, you don't need to see the first one. You just watch the second because it kind of serves as that soft reboot.
Hmm. But yeah, big Bruce Campbell fan here, and like I said, I just love him in Evil Dead 2. Like that's his
Mm-hmm.
like shining moment there. So, in Halloween related news, Halloween Ends just wrapped up production on set, and the final film in this requel trilogy is still expected to come out this October. So, very much looking forward to it. Should be very exciting.
This is the one I'm probably going in the most curious about. Just with the way that Halloween Kills left it, what are they gonna do? They've kind of backed themselves into a creative corner, where it's not quite supernatural, but it's almost supernatural. And the last time the series went supernatural, it was Curse of Michael Myers and the Cult of Thorn, and wasn't a fan of that. So I am very curious, though. I love this series, I love this franchise, and I will say I highly doubt that with a title like Halloween Ends, this will be the last one. Because let's face it.
You know, it's kind of funny because with the way the new Halloween in 2018 began, and since I had heard it was going to be a planned trilogy, I thought it was going to be something along the lines of Halloween Returns, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. That's what I thought they were going to do for naming conventions, but didn't quite work out that way.
Well,
And
no, they did it. Halloween Awakens, and then the last Halloween, and then the third one should be called The Rise of Halloween.
yeah, that also would work too. I do
Or
like that
you
idea.
could do the Fellowship of Halloween, the two Halloweens, and then the Return of Halloween. There's just
Is it or is it or Halloween a new scare? Halloween the Myers strikes back, and and the return of Halloween.
yeah. There are limitless possibilities with.
That is pretty cool. So we also have some very interesting news on the new Munsters film that's coming out by Rob Zombie. and officially the movie is rated PG. And
That I need to see.
yeah, and for me personally, like being a fan of the original Munsters and is it and like is it older is a series like the Addams Family, it's very refreshing to see that it's still going to be very much more of a family friendly kind of spooky slash spoopy kind is a kind of thing. I think that's where Rob Zombie's going towards because from what he's indicating, it's going to be more like scary fun versus
Yeah.
like because I think that's what people really would like to see. They just want to be like more or less be smiling while like is it while neighbors are getting terrified of a bit is a big Frankenstein as a guy coming. It's like, oh, hi there.
I think that, it's obviously a big intellectual property. And right from the get-go, I'm like, it's got to be family friendly. Even before this was announced, when it was first announced that Rob Zombie was doing it, I figured Universal is not giving him the keys to this without adhering to that. And I think that
Hmm.
it's going to make for a really interesting challenge for him, where I love his visual creativity, and I think the biggest criticism people have of his movies is that his characters are just like disgusting, unlikable people who are constantly hostile to each other.
Mm.
And I think here's a movie where you can't really have that. So it's going to
Right.
force him to kind of be creative in other ways. And this is probably my most anticipated upcoming movie right now, just out of my own curiosity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm genuinely curious myself. I mean, like I said, I'll always definitely love the original, especially with Fred is it Gerwin, Yvonne is it Devon DeCarlo, and of course the legendary Al Lew is it Lewis. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean those actors like, you know, they're they're just like I mean, without them like
There's
the
no
character
monsters.
exactly the characterization of the monsters it wouldn't be what it is
But,
today in consciousness.
mm-hmm,
But I am willing to give it as a but I'm still willing to give this new acting troupe a try, mainly because much like much like the '90s Adams Family. With Raul Julia playing Gomez Adams, who did a fantastic job.
that was, a surprise hit. There was not a single weak link in that cast. And I'm hoping we get the same thing here. And I know how much, the Munsters means to you and means to its fandom. And
Hmm.
I would remind everyone that Rob Zombie is just as much a fan. He loves the Munsters. There's a
Yes.
scene in House of a Thousand Corpses where Otis Firefly is watching the Munsters.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, Zombie has always been a fan of, that kind of classic vintage horror, which is interesting given his own style is kind of closer to, grittier stuff. But I'm very excited to see it.
Absolutely. Just like the way Raul Julia compliments John Aston very well
Mm-hmm.
that both actors can stand alongside each other. I'm very curious to see the new actor for Herman Munster to see like how he'll compare to Fred's performance. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely looking forward to that, and it should be a lot of fun. So like I said, this could be that '90s Adams Family feel like in the 2020s. So
And in
looking
some
forward to it.
alternate universe is the true Rob Zombie version where Herman and Lily are cursing each other out, which I kind of want to see that a little bit just for fun. Even if it's just like, that'd make a great comedy sketch.
Who knows? Maybe that'll be a Blu-ray extra, which would be
I
pretty
hope
funny.
they I hope they shoot one scene like that just to have it.
That would be cool. And actually, speaking of monsters, one other extra piece of news to add to this: the lovely and talented Cassandra Peterson, who more of us would recognize as the lovely Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, has also been cast in the new Monsters movie. as
Yeah,
she is playing a real estate agent, which is
it,
very interesting.
it's fitting. I mean, given Rob Zombie's always cast, actors who, character actors who were big in horror and grindhouse stuff in the 70s and 80s. And, to be honest, it's surprising to me that he has not worked with Cassandra Peterson yet. So
Yeah, that
she'll
is
be
interesting.
very much at home in that environment. Because
Absolutely.
I guarantee you he's as much a fan of Elvira's as he is of the monsters and everything else, old school horror.
And that is awesome, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing her. And also, fingers crossed too that who knows, maybe like we'll get a special like little cameo from Svengoolie. That would be kind of
That'd
cool.
be
I would
cool.
really love to. I would really dig that too, because
Or Joe Bob.
oh yeah,
Yo, I
Joe
would
Bob.
lose my mind if Joe Bob was in that.
Oh, it would be hilarious. And you know he would do a phenomenal job in whatever role he
As some
does.
like, I don't know, Texas oil tycoon or like something like that.
Is it or that he's maybe like the head of the homeowners association or something like that?
Yeah.
That would be funny. Okay, so moving on to our next segment, we have an upcoming video game from Rift Tracks,
They're making
which
a
is very
video game?
yeah, and
Do,
this
do,
really
do you
this
riff
was
along the game? How does that work?
it's coming out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and Steam platforms on May 15th. It is a party game where friends and other players can riff on clips of various films in said game. So it's more of a party game kind of thing. Like think
Oh,
of it
I see.
like Jackbox.
Oh,
If
okay.
you've Yeah, along those lines where uh, there would be like a selection of movie quotes, or you could even write your own and then and then submit it in, and then of course riff along as the movie progresses. So it's a really cool idea, and like I said, as someone who loves riff tracks, I'm a big fan of theirs myself. So it's it's just like a neat idea, especially like if
Mm-hmm.
you've done Jackbox like 100 times and you want to have something different, or let's say like you and I wanted to like riff on some you know is a horror themed riff tracks episodes. We could do that with this game, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. The world of Screambox, we have a brand new original documentary coming out called Pennywise: The Story of It,
Ooh.
which as you know, huge Stephen King, adaptation. Probably one of his most recognizable books and movies. I'm not 100% sure if this is sort of the backstory of Pennywise himself or if this is more, the making of the movie. I kind of hope it's the former because it goes back like a million years to the Deadlights and this weird, freaky, cocaine inspired mythos that Stephen King wrote.
Yeah, I think it is more a documentary on the making of the film,
I kind
but
of figured.
yeah, I figured that myself too.
And then while we're on the subject of Screenbox, the classic vintage slasher TV show Freddy's Nightmares is now streaming on there. I will be honest, I do not have Screenbox. I'm a Shudder subscriber, but lately I've been kind of thinking about maybe getting both. We'll see. The Freddy's Nightmares is certainly enticing me, but
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
And for me, and when I actually read that up, I was like, wow, like, because that has not been available in the US. Like, there's been no DVD or Blu-ray
Mm-hmm.
releases of it at all. So, like, this is a pretty major first, and hopefully we'll see like more of this kind of stuff because it's nice to see some more like older 80s horror shows like getting some much needed love, especially like in this day and age. So. I'm definitely curious, especially because I really love a Nightmare. I've watched the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series, minus the is a remake with Jackie Earl Haley. But I really is it. But in terms of the TV show side of things, I've never seen any of Freddy's Nightmares, so I am genuinely curious.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that has to do with the rights. When you're dealing with a show from back then, if they used
Yeah.
music. They may have had the rights to use that music when it aired, but they didn't have the rights to use that when it was distributed. And for it
Yes,
to
that's
be on
true.
Screenbox, you don't know how long it's going to be on there for. This may
Mhm.
be your only chance to watch it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what's going on in the back of my mind, where it's like, maybe I should get Screenbox just to watch that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Switching over to Shutter Gears, very, very happy when I found out this week that The Last Drive-In Season 4 is coming this April. It's premiering on April 29th, and it will
Nice.
feature the 100th movie he's covered on that show, which
N-
seems like a lot. But if you remember, he covers 2 movies an episode. He's done countless holiday specials, and he started with that 24-hour marathon on Shudder back in 2018. So we counted it out, and if you count the first 2 episodes of Walking Dead, which he showed for a special this past October, it's going to be movie number 100, and it's going to have a special guest, according to Twitter. And according to Twitter, we don't know who that guest is.
So that should be very interesting and enticing for anyone who's just curious of who the guest is. But for me personally, I am just really happy and very excited. I just love Joe Bob Briggs. Awesome guy. I love his style. I love the commentary he gives on these various
Mm-hmm.
films. Like I really feel like I learn a lot about each movie the more as I watch his stuff, and he's just like a genuinely wonderful guy. Like he just generally loves what he does, and you can feel that with everyone on set. Like when you hear them like laughing in the background, when something really funny gets is it brought up in a movie, or when
Mm-hmm.
he makes a very unique point of a film, and it's just so wonderful. It just always brightens up my day.
It's worth watching just for his rants. They're,
Yes, that too.
they are some of the best parts.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, looking forward to it on Shutter.
And then this story just broke today. There's also an article about this on Halloween Year Round. So we knew that we were getting Scream 6. We also just found out recently that Courtney Cox is coming back for it. Neve Campbell, as of right now, still up in the air. She says they've approached her for it. They haven't officially announced it. If they're announcing a release date, which they did today, I'm hoping that means they've got her, or maybe they're going to continue it without her and just have Gail be the legacy character. But we do know that it is coming out in just over a year from now, March 31st, 2023.
Yeah, which was very surprising because usually like a movie like this might take like a little longer, especially with how quickly the script has to be written for something like this, unless they were already anticipating that 2022's film was going to be such a success that maybe they were
Mm-hmm.
sorry, like maybe the gears were already turning, and it's like, okay, well, how are we going to continue something like that, which
I
is
guarantee
always important.
you, when they were making the latest one, they had in the back of their minds where they would take it next if it worked.
Well, that's good.
So
So,
I'm betting that they were probably already working on a script for a while, and
good.
we'll see. We'll definitely cover it here on the channel.
Absolutely.
In one of these videos, I'll do a written review of it as well. So very excited for Scream 6, or how are you describing it? What were you calling it?
Um, well, since we have Scream 4 or Scriforum as it's
As
as I
it's
called it,
spelled, literally.
yeah, as it's spelled literally, and then in for 2022 Scream, which unofficially by various fans and circles in the Scream community, hoping that it was going to be called Five Cream
Mm-hmm.
because of the five looking like an S.
Sort of like Fan Four Stick
Yeah,
instead of
exactly.
Fantastic Four.
Right, exactly. So for me, this is my prediction of how it's going to be spelled. It's going to be spelled as 6 a.m.
So
So
SCR 6 AM.
yes, that's what I'm predicting.
Well, time will tell.
Yes, indeed. And thanks again for introducing that film to me because I've been going
He
back
had
and
never
rewatching.
seen the Scream movies.
Yeah, I know, but you know what
I'm
though?
getting him hooked on them.
Yes,
Very proud of it.
and you should be because I'm just loving them. Like great like 90s horror entertainment. First one's like my personal favorite. Its sequel, Scream 2, is also really well done and very unique in
It's
how
very
it
underrated.
can.
It's my favorite
Yes,
sequel of the whole series.
my next one up is Scream 3, and then of course Scream 4, and I'm actually even going to rewatch Scream 2022.
They're
In
less good, but I'll
Yeah,
let you watch them, and then as you watch them, you tell us what you think on the show. All
sure.
right?
That sounds good. That sounds good because after I'm done with that, I'm also going to rewatch Scream 5 just so that that way I have the full on
Mm.
effect. So stay tuned for my personal thoughts on the Scream series. And I will as a break the last story of the day. So we got another Indiegogo campaign for an 80s style horror Christmas slash as a horror comedy Christmas slasher called Mistletoe Massacre.
Mistletoe Massacre. I dig the name. What can you tell us about it?
Well, details are still a little bit um a little kind of like behind the scenes. Like I don't think they want
Okay.
to reveal like too much about the plot just so that way they can maybe just drip it a little bit is it with each part, but from what I've gathered so far, and I did provide a link which we will do as I do for the channel.
Yeah, we'll put a
It
link in the
seems
description. Looks
yeah,
like there's a discount on the pledges right now. If you want to get in now, there are
yeah,
9 days left.
yes, at the time of this recording. Or actually, it might be 7 days because of the time of this recording.
You're right. 7 days when it airs.
Yeah, is it? Which is the same number? Is it number of days for the ring?
We don't do this live. All television is fake. Fake news. This is not even a real news show, so yes, we are.
Mm. But yeah, like from what I've been gathering with, it just seems that I think just in general, this is just like a more back to basics, classic comedy as a slasher, as a horror kind of as a kind of thing. I think this might be this actually could be along the lines of say Black Christmas too, like with like with the Garbage Day kind of as I feel. Maybe it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be more ridiculous in that respect. If that's the case, I'm 100% for it and definitely hoping for some good stuff.
All right. Well, there you
Uh,
have it. Those were our news pieces. Now on to the main event.
yes.
Ty West's X. It's not an X-Men movie.
Nope.
When you write it on Twitter with the hashtag X movie, it makes me think of like X-Men, but this is not at all an X-Men movie. This
Oh,
is
certainly
very
not.
much so right off the bat, a lot of people are describing it as Boogie Nights meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And
Yep.
while that is an accurate description, I feel like it barely scratches the surface of everything in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it doesn't capture that there's a lot more going on to it. So real quick before we get into it, major spoilers. If you haven't
Yes.
seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled, go see the movie, then come back here because we're going to give away some major plot things.
Oh yeah. Especially that twist ending too.
Oh yeah. So we start in brief little summary. We start in 1979 in a
And
movie that. So I'm a huge fan of Ty West's House of the Devil, and that's a movie that almost tricks you into thinking it was made in the early 80s. This movie doesn't try that. Like, this movie doesn't... It's shot in the same style as modern movies are. It feels more like a modern movie set in the 70s. And that's not a bad thing for what the movie's trying to do.
yeah.
So, we open up in 1979. At the end, which... I don't know if it's necessary. I know some horror movies, a lot of movies like to start with the end and then work their way back. we see the sheriff, and he's just dumbfounded with like this gruesome crime scene that he's found. I don't know, what do you think about the whole start the movie at the end and then work go back to the beginning?
I think it can help. I think it depends on the approach or the mindset of the director and
Mm-hmm.
the way he wants to tell his or her story. So I'm personally thinking that for Ty West, I think he wanted to set up it as this grisly crime scene and then work his way back to more or less have the emotional payoff at the very end. Because the way it gets paid off at the very end, I think it doubly hits harder as a result.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I personally feel.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I didn't really look at it that way. I thought narratively, I don't know if it's necessary, but maybe from thematically, it works better.
Right. I think with the theme that he was going with and the subtext of the film, I think that was necessary in order to have that emotional payoff hit even harder as a result.
Mm-hmm. So then we do flashback 24 hours where we meet our cast of characters which is a really cool ensemble. You got Brittany
Yeah.
Snow from Would You Rather and Prom Night remake. You've got Mia Goth, who was in A Cure for Wellness. You've got Jenna Ortega, who is having a hell of a year between Scream and then Studio 666 and then X, and then she's also the star of the aforementioned Tim Burton Wednesday Addams show. You've got, Kid Cudi, who I do not know very well because I'm not really a music person. I think you know him a little better than I do.
A little bit. I haven't listened to a lot of his music, but I definitely know one of his big hits. It's a song called "Is a Day and Night," um, and it's really really cool. It's a very like chill, mellow kind of as a rap song,
Mm-hmm.
and and ironically enough, to tie in with a certain Marvel series coming up at the end of March, his song is actually featured in the trailer of Moon Knight, and it's
Oh,
done as a
okay.
remix. Yeah, so like it was really cool to like hear that song like in it. I'm like, hey, I recognize that.
That's Day and Night. Well,
Yeah.
I can't really speak to his music, but he was solid in this.
Oh yeah.
He gave a great performance. And
Agreed.
you've also got Martin Henderson as the sort of sleazy executive producer and guy behind this whole idea, who horror fans will recognize as Noah in The Ring, the guy who Samara comes out of the TV to, and my fiance Jess and many other people will recognize as some dude from Grey's Anatomy, as I've been told.
Yeah, because actually I really did enjoy his performance in this one. I was very impressed. Although weirdly enough, he kind of reminded me of Matthew McConaughey-esque,
Well, yeah,
as a vibe to him.
he's going very Texan
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
role,
that's the feel I got.
and they're traveling out. So he owns and operates. Is it like a strip club or something?
Something like that.
Something
Something like
along
that.
those lines. He's trying to make a quick buck, and he gets this idea that they're going to get into the film industry, which
Yeah,
at that time, independent filmmaking, it was the Wild West. It was the first time that you didn't really need a studio backing you.
yeah,
We have classics like, Night of the Living Dead, Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, and that
and
also included the adult industry, where it was just like, oh, let's just
mhm.
get a camera and go film something.
Yeah, that's true. I think even Evil Dead, for example,
Mm-hmm.
very much like
That
benefited
like
from that too.
indie guerrilla style filmmaking. The
Yes.
as the character in the movie says, better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission type of filmmaking, where they show up at this rural farmhouse with this elderly couple. Don't tell them at all what they're doing,
Right.
because if they did, he'd kick them out.
Of course.
And he's kind of like, even from the get go, he greets the dude with like a shotgun in his face.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very much like, it like in its time as a time period, as an older man who's just like, hey, what are you doing on my property? As a not realizing that he talked to him roughly a week ago
Mm-hmm.
as a in film, so he needs a moment to kind of rejog his memory, and then it's like, oh yeah, yeah, you called about the house.
Yeah, I love how he goes from like about to shoot the guy in the face to, oh yeah, we did like total 180.
Right, yeah, good like tension building there.
Oh, it definitely. What I love about, so horror is, it's one of the genres that it almost kind of has to pretend to be a different genre first before the
Yeah,
horror
that's true.
starts. And this one's not immune to it. We see them in the beginning. You would think this is just kind of like a dark comedy about people trying to break into the adult industry in the 70s, but
Hmm.
what I love is that it infuses tension from the get-go.
Yes.
From the old man with the shotgun to Mia Goth's character going swimming, and the alligator,
Yes.
which
Oh yeah.
totally pays off later. Like, you think
Yes.
something's gonna happen then, and the movie's like, nah, hold it, don't worry, we're gonna do something with the alligator. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah. We'll just put a pin in that until
And
later.
when it pays off, boy, does it pay off. So,
That
his
that
his
yeah.
wife is kind of. Would you say she's spying on them?
I think yeah. I think I'm not sure if spying as much as just maybe general curiosity. I think like is like that kind of I wonder like who these kids really are. I
Mm-hmm.
know I say kids, although maybe in her mind it's like what are these young folks like
I mean, yeah, in her
really
mind, they are.
doing?
They're clearly meant to be like in their 20s, and it's interesting that seeing them shooting these graphic scenes, it kind of awakens something in her where,
Yeah, I did notice that.
yeah, and it's actually like, but before it gets scary, it's actually kind of sad where
Yeah.
she feels like she's decades past her prime. Her husband can't really be intimate with her because he's got a heart condition, and she's jealous. She looks and she's like, oh, I used to be young, I used to be beautiful, and then that sort of turns into a resentment, which kind of sets this movie off into slasher territory, as horror movies do. Let's kill people as a result.
Right. Actually, like one scene in particular that really I think emphasizes that kind of like regret and a reflection of as a youth of youth and elderly was the scene with landslide. I mean, sorry, landslide by Fleetwood Mac as
Mm-hmm.
Kid Cudi is playing it on guitar and then Snow begins to sing the lyrics and it's just such a well shot moment, like especially with the split screen of seeing them,
Mm-hmm.
in the cabin, and then seeing the old woman Pearl as she's like up in her room, just and you can just see visually like the kind of regret and sadness on her face, and just prior to that moment, the acting troupe as they were just discussing, we only get to live once then we grow old and we can't really do anything anymore. So we got to live life to the fullest. And it was just a really just unique parallel between the two. I
It
really loved how Ty was shot that.
it was far more poignant than you were expecting the movie to be. And
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for that. I think, it really
Hmm.
touches upon that fear of aging.
Yes.
It's one thing that none of us can escape. Even me, I'm still a young guy. No, last week I went to Monster Mania, and, I walked around all weekend, and I gotta tell you, I felt it on that Monday. And I really regretted, I took off that Friday to go, but I didn't take off that Monday. And as I was getting ready for work, I'm like, I should have taken off today too, just to, like, I need a day to recover now. But when I used to do Monster Mania, like, 7 years ago, I'd go all weekend, and then I'd still go to work on Monday, full of energy. And, like, even now, I'm feeling it. I'm not quite at the point that, the couple in this movie is, but I can see where running with that later, it makes me want to now enjoy and do what I want to do while I still can.
Absolutely. And I completely understand that, too.
And I, too, have thought about killing... No, I haven't.
Well, I hope not.
Speaking of killing, dude, the kills.
Oh, yeah, they were incredible in
So,
this one.
which ones made you, like, cringe or go, ooh, the most?
I think for me personally, I think the biggest one was the pitchfork in the eyes. That just was so gruesome.
It's
And
like
it was so
right-
sudden. It was just so sudden, like the way, as it Henderson's just like looking like through the peepholes, and you're thinking like, oh, maybe she's gonna come from behind and stab him
You
with the
are,
knife.
and then it's...
Yeah, and it's just right in the eyes. I'm like, ooh.
And that's kind of what was interesting, is that, so your killer is an elderly woman, and then later, her husband. These are people that, our characters could probably easily overpower. But what I like is that the movie has her kill them more so in, like, unexpected ways.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
in a straight up fight, they would win, but it's that he was crouching down looking, and then the pitchfork went through.
Right.
Plus, I think eyes freak people out.
Yeah, that's true. That and the way she offs each character, I think. Well, right, she wouldn't have the strength like to take them all on in this case, but she has several major advantages, including the fact that one, she knows the property inside and out,
Mm-hmm.
like everything from what's going on in the house all the way down to the docks. And of course the fact that she's just meeting up with each one of them individually, or her husband is meeting up with each one individually.
Well, yeah.
I mean the scene, like for example, like when Kate Cuddy's like talking with her husband, and he's like just generally concerned, like like, I don't know what's going on here, but like I'm gonna help you out, like and like being kind-hearted with this, and yet he doesn't realize that it's like, no, like he's not playing, he's not playing, and then just boom, out of nowhere, shotgun right to the chest.
And like you felt it, like each,
Right.
and that's something I can't say for every slasher movie. You felt each kill, and part of it was it did its due diligence. These were interesting characters that you did care about, that in the process of them shooting their movie, you kind of got to know each one. You got to know each one of them had hopes and dreams, each one, and they were just like, it was a fun movie to watch even before the killing started.
Yeah,
but then when
true.
the killing started, it just made it hit you closer to home. Like,
yes,
as hard as that pitchfork to the eye, which, fun fact, the eyes are surprisingly easy to rip out. You're welcome, audience. Have fun sleeping tonight.
Well, with how soft the corneas are and whatnot, I am not surprised.
Yeah, actually, it takes very... You would be surprised at how little strength it actually takes to rip them out. Use that knowledge as you will. For me, it's going to be,
the more you know.
The more you know. I think the one that really got me, it's got to be the nail in the foot.
Oh, yeah,
right before he gets stabbed in the eye, he steps on... That was so... that scene in Home Alone where Marv steps on the nail, everyone has always said that, that's like something out of a Saw movie. This was the actual horror version of that scene. It's like stepping on a Lego times a million.
Yeah. and just seeing him like take it out and the blood coming from his
Oh,
foot.
yeah.
Ooh, ooh, nasty.
Like, yeah, they were up close, they were personal. You know, uh, Jenna Ortega gets her fingers chopped off. And that's another thing. There were a lot of cool little homages to other horror, like the way she tries to break through the door, like Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Yep.
Can we agree that the entirety of the movie is an homage to Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah, because that's why I wore this
That's
shirt for
why he wore
today.
that shirt.
Because trust me on this one, set as I said in Texas.
It's at a farmhouse.
Yeah, at a farmhouse. A seemingly like unusual couple that just so happens to harbor a dark secret. Uh, of course, also another little tribute, the Volkswagen in the dock area, in the lake.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, from
like in
Psycho.
it's sitting in the water, which they even
So
reference Psycho in the movie. So that was a nice little.
yeah, and
So
so obviously they're not the first people to be terrorized. Like obviously there's been times where other people just happen to drift on in, and and then they're just gone. So it almost makes you wonder, like, maybe she was still looking for something that she wanted or
mhm.
needed, and she still couldn't get it. So then, she and the husband had to bump them off and send them to a watery grave or have them be eaten by alligators.
It also kind of subverts that trope. I know that going back to 80s slashers, it's a known
Hmm.
trope like sex equals death, drinking equals death, taking drugs equals death. That was very common in those movies. But it seems only natural they'd be making this kind of movie and they'd all get killed. But the fact that they killed the other people there before, were they doing the same thing, or does that suggest that it didn't matter what they were doing, this elderly couple was going to kill them?
Mm.
I think
Yeah, that's
it's a
true.
subtle little thing,
Yeah, it kind of makes
which
you
I
wonder,
want to
like,
I want to get more to a little bit later.
oh yeah, you mean the ending part, or is it, or
Yeah, just like the ending and the greater themes. But
yeah,
as
which I'm
as far
definitely.
as the kills go,
Hmm.
very gruesome, very gory. We got nails going through feet. We got pitchforks going through eyes. We got Brittany Snow being eaten by an alligator, which is not a
Yeah,
sentence I ever thought I would say.
yeah.
But it's
Uh, and Owen Campbell, when he's just trying to just get the car out of the off the property, and she's just standing there, and he's like, "What's going on?" While you're hearing "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster Cult, and you're thinking like she's just like just off in the distance, and then he's like, is it ma'am? And then just out of nowhere, knife to the
right in the
throat.
neck.
Yeah,
Well, that's
and
what
not
I
just
mean.
like
Is she
once
caught
or
him off
twice,
guard?
multiple times. I know it was just
She
while
wanted
being
to make
timed too.
sure.
Yeah, while the song's playing in the background,
I
it's
mean,
very well executed.
if you're gonna get murdered while listening to a song, it might as well be that song.
Yeah.
So great kills, but now I want to talk a little bit about sort of the greater themes, because this is definitely a
Yes.
movie that has something to say, but I get the sense
Yes.
that people won't necessarily agree on what it's saying, and I
Hmm.
don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing.
Right.
So what
Yeah.
was your major takeaway?
Very glad you asked that because I'm now going to reveal the very unique twist at the end of this film.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the movie, you see on the television set a preacher, like southern, as a Southern Baptist, like I presume like a Southern Baptist, as a Texas preacher, and he's talking about sin. He's talking
Not
about
not not just any, like, we're talking cranked up to 11
yeah,
Southern accent preacher. It is all about the sin, and I like
yes,
this dude could be on Broadway. Like that's the level
yeah,
of
he
theatricality,
absolutely
that he has, which is not uncommon among televangelists.
very much so. And it's very interesting how at several points in the movie we cut back to that television set and the way he talks about sin and talks about the evils of it, how it perverses, how it corrupts, how it makes pure become
Hmm.
impure, like as I throw out each part. Especially, for example, um, as a character of Jenna Ortega's is it Laureline, who is constantly referred to as Church Mouse because she's very much, um,
She's
she's
quiet.
still young. Yeah, yeah, she's quiet, she's innocent,
She's
she's in a
naive.
and she's also in a relationship with her boyfriend, the cameraman, RJ, is it the character of RJ? And at one point, as she's filming, what was it with the boom mic? I mean, using the boom mic, at one point she is especially at the end of Landslide, after they sing after that song is sung, she then says, "I want to be in the movie," and it just it's like so shocking. And RJ's like, like why? It's like I'm doing is it like everything's great, and it's like, well, we're just making it better, aren't we?
I mean,
Having
first of all, what did he expect when he brought her along to make it?
right,
Like, what did he? And then I love how, first of all, RJ. I love, first of all, I related to him in the beginning because he's like the cinema freak.
yeah,
But the more the movie went on, I'm like, this dude's like the ultimate dweeb. He
yeah,
like he thinks he's all high and mighty. He fancies himself, Spielberg,
yeah, that's
and
true.
he's more than okay filming, one guy's girlfriend with the other guy. But then when
Hmm.
his girlfriend wants to do it, he's like, no, no way, not gonna happen. This is different. It's like, dude, you're kind of a hypocrite.
Yeah, and I think ultimately he realized that he was just getting a taste of his own medicine at that point, and it's like, and I think that's when it starts to break him down. I mean, especially the scene with him in the shower as he's like crying. It's like, I mean, just like that tall angle shot. It's like, it's just like, it's just breaking him in two.
It's interesting because cliche would be to have Jenna Ortega's character kind of have that breakdown
Hmm.
where, oh, I feel dirty. What have I done? What have I done? And it's
Hmm.
interesting, and I like the subversion that it's the boyfriend who has that breakdown, and all he did was film it. Like he wasn't the
Hmm.
one participating in it, but it's
Right.
interesting to me that, if we're going back to the theme about living life to the fullest,
Hmm.
she makes that choice to do that, and it's like it bothers him because it's like he wanted to control her, and he wanted her to like stay in Church Mouse Lane. And when she went out of it, that bothered him, and it's hypocritical that he's more than okay with other people drifting outside that. It's the
Hmm.
whole. It's sort of like the not in my backyard mentality, or like the do as I
Yeah.
say, not what I do mentality.
Yeah, exactly. And and ultimately he like in a weird way kind of pays for it in the end as
I mean,
as
he's the
Ortega's.
first. He's the first kill.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And actually it's funny, like just before like the filming when Ortega takes off her cross, which is, shown throughout the movie, like actually the theme of the cross is shown throughout the film, like, quite a bit, is it quite a bit. When she takes that off, it shows that ultimately she loses her purity. She loses that sense of innocence that the preacher kept talking about on the television, because she, along with everyone else, everyone else, is getting killed off one by one, and leading up to the ultimate twist. And this one really shocked me, but also showed like, that strong Christian theming and messaging. When the preacher talks and says, you want to know why I do this, and the sin is a sin, and why we have to abolish it, and then it reveals his daughter, and his daughter is the very one who's been prominently featured in in the film.
Maxine, the character
Maxine,
played
yes,
by Mia Goth.
yeah, by Mia. Is it yes? by Mia Goth, the character of
So
Maxine. And that was such a hard-hitting moment. I'm like, whoa.
it was. So you see it as having kind of a Christian undertone.
Yes. Yes, I do.
You think like a pro-Christian one? Because she survived. Like, she's the final girl.
You're right. However, though, while she is the final girl, very much established in Texas
Mm-hmm.
Chainsaw, I think the way she looks at everything, especially like by the very end as the dawn breaks and the way she looks at herself, and I almost kind of felt like maybe this was the moment for her that said, you know, I don't want this life anymore. I think is it like she doesn't want to fall into the into the adult film industry, that she doesn't want to go down this path, and that maybe, just maybe, at the very end of the film she was going back to her parents and hoping to find redemption.
I don't know that she is. I don't know, once the movie gets out, which the movie does, the police recover it. And mind you,
Yeah.
in universe, this is going to be the most infamous adult movie in the history of cinema. Because, like, oh, did you hear about that movie where all the people died right after they filmed it? That's what this is going to be.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, that was your takeaway. I see it more as, I don't really see it as pro or anti anything. I just see it as kind of urging for moderation. Allow me to explain.
Okay.
So, yes, there's definitely a sense of purity and loss of purity and loss of innocence. But let's not forget, her father, being as he is, was probably very, very strict, probably very fundamentalist.
I believe that.
And it's likely that it was that upbringing that drove her to that life.
Yes.
That made her want to rebel so much in the first place, and that maybe had he been more lenient, she would not have run so far the other way. Much like the old woman, had she done more with her life, she would not be going so far over here to literally murdering young people. There's a great line towards the end where Maxine says to her, like, I'm sorry that you didn't live the life you wanted, but, like, don't take it out on me.
Yeah. That was a very powerful line. I will give you that. And I see your point. And I do see your point as moderation is a key to success, which I actually do believe in myself very much. It's just the way I saw it. I just felt that in the end it was just a reflection of, you don't go so far as to like exploiting yourself in order to try to gain quick access to fame, riches, etc. That's what I mean. That was my takeaway in terms of like the Christian theming of it, which was very interesting. But I also see your point too, that maybe she wouldn't necessarily have like gone back to her parents, but at the same time though, we'll never really know because ultimately it's still her life to live at the very end.
Well,
So
yeah.
who knows? Maybe there'll come a time where she might return, and maybe she and her family can make amends, or maybe she'll just continue on living her own life and doing her own thing, but maybe realizing that this is it like going all in on this thing may not be the most sensible and the most practical, because in the end it led to the death of all of her
And
friends
everyone.
and everyone. So
So,
yeah, I could see that.
I think moderation is good, that going too far any one way is a negative thing, but it's a testament to the movie. I love it when a movie can be interpreted multiple ways. I think that's a sign of a strong movie, that it doesn't tell you what to think. It simply presents itself, and what you take away from it can be different than what I take away from it. Can be different from what everyone else does, that we can all kind of interpret it our own way.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about this movie. This movie was a real thinking piece, and I think that was
it was great. So definitely, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing watching this video? Because we just spoiled the hell out of it. But if you want to watch it again, definitely recommend going to see it. Check out Ty West's other movies. House of the Devil is amazing. Same
Yes.
with The Sacrament. That one's like a found footage, like
Mm,
Jim Jones cult movie. Really
mm.
disturbing stuff.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of found footage movies too, there's actually a prequel to this one that's currently in development.
Yeah, right now there's not much known about it other than they are making it. It is called Pearl, and it's due out later. And we will report more on that as we learn more. So definitely check out X. It's a
Hmm.
great movie.
Yes, it is. Very
Now,
enjoyable.
now before we wrap up, we still have one more segment to do, and that is, of course, Patrick's Movies from the Crypt.
Well, hello, all you horror hounds and media monsters out there. Gather round the film graveyard as I dig up some tasty new releases in our physical media segment known as Movies from the Crypt.
These are undead movies coming back.
Yep, undead movies
I
coming
love
back
it.
yep, from the days of old. Along with a few new ones popping out to say hello.
All right, so what do we have this week?
So up first, the 2000 Japanese live-action horror classic Uzumaki, created by legendary manga artist Junji Ito and directed by, and I apologize, I'm going to be butchering this name. The director's name is it Higu Nishiki. He's a Polish director. I
Let me
probably
see. Is that Higuchinsky?
Higuchinsky.
That's how I
Thank
would
you.
say it.
Thank you very
My
much.
my Polish is no better than yours, though.
And I'm part Polish. So, it is coming to Blu-ray in the U.S. From the good people at Discotech Media under their new Nihon Nights sub label. So very much interested in this one. One big special feature is included is a newly revised English translation of the film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's definitely Japanese horror at its best. It's a very heavy psychological thriller kind of thing with some nice physical horror mixed in as well, revolving around spirals and the various terrifying things of it. You may think like oh, it's just a spiral. Well, it may is it well. There's various stories in Uzumaki, especially when it comes to various hairstyles going in, wrapping around people, killing them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like really unique Japanese horror. So expect Uzumaki to spiral its way into your video library. Late 2022? Up next, we got a delay for Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day Part 2 on 4K and Blu-ray. Its new release date is going to be May 31st.
Still worth owning both of those. Definitely check those out.
Yeah. So be sure to get ready for your birthday or your death day
That
coming
actually,
soon.
May 31st is only 3 days before my birthday.
Ooh,
I might get
very
it
nice.
for my birthday and then watch it on my birthday. That would be cool.
Oh,
We should do
nice.
it.
That'd be Hey, that'd be a cool one as a stream. That's awesome. I'd love that. So we also got a 2021 Shudder original film, Death Valley, making its way to Blu-ray on May 17th.
I actually watched it, reviewed that one on the blog. It's okay, but check it out because it's a cool, fun like monster movie. It wasn't really my thing, but that doesn't mean it won't be your thing. So always check stuff out.
That is true. I mean, you introduced me to Scream. You've also introduced me to My Bloody Valentine, which I'm always grateful for, and I thank you for that. As well as Studio 666, one of my
Mm-hmm.
personal favorite horror movies of 2022. So yeah, who knows? Maybe Death Valley will be for is it for you? So definitely keep an open mind in the horror community. We also have Dario Argento's Philomena, a two
Phenomena.
oh Phenomenon. Thank you.
It's
Do do
not to be
do 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 do.
confused. Yeah, not to be confused with the John Travolta movie Phenomenon, where he's like a dude
do
that
do do do.
tells the future. Phenomena is actually really cool. It's from that Giallo era. It stars a very young Jennifer Connelly as she's like a student in Europe.
Oh, nice.
Less murdery and gory and bloody, and kind of more just like eerie, creepy, disturbing, surreal.
I love a good psychological thriller, and that one I should definitely check out.
Check it out. It's been on Shudder for a while. I don't know if it's still on there. They might have taken it off, but I watched it on Shudder I think it was like 6 months ago, something like that. But I really, really liked it.
I will definitely give that a go. Just like the way you recommended The House of the Devil to me, which I am very grateful for because in preparation for X, I did watch that and I loved it. Great cult, horror film, and very much a testament to Ty West's versatility in that like time period genre, which I always love. So it's a two. So anyway, back to news. Uh, it's a 2-disc limited edition 4K, and it is available right now at your local video store and on the online retailer.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And the patriotic release of Uncle Sam on 4K is marching his way to your hometown come June 21st.
Just in time for the 4th of July, and just in time for us watching it. I watch that movie every July 4th. We may or may not do that one for the 4th of July episode this year. I have not decided yet if we'll cover that or some other thing, but definitely recommend watching that because it's like the only one of its kind.
Yeah, and I definitely want to watch it myself, and we will talk about it. We may not talk about it on the 4th of July, but we still would like to do like a review of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely love to do a review of that with you.
It's really good.
Good stuff. All right, so up next is the alien invasion film End of the World from 1977 and Full Moon Entertainment starring Christopher Lee, which which will be invading your home later this year.
Always love a good Christopher Lee movie.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Love the guy. Another excellent and talented actor. And the upcoming Grindhouse film release of Death Game on Blu-ray is now available for purchase online.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I'm not. Same here. I'm not exactly sure what the main plot of it is, but what I do know is they've been really heavily pushing this on their Twitter feed. For example, there was a contest in order to win a golden meat cleaver mini keychain, which is pretty
awesome.
cool. So that's always nice to see, like distributors like giving back to the fans and trying and doing like cool little promotions like that. So always welcome. Just like the way Shout and Scream Factory like loves to give like tons of extras and bonus features along with like posters too. Like for example, the movie of Cursed will have a poster while supplies last on their website on Shout Factory. So definitely check that out as well. Also, since we were talking about Scream earlier, I mean, this might as well be like the unofficial Scream episode.
At this point.
Yeah. So, the 2022 film of Scream will be screaming and slashing its way to your home video library on April 5th, which has been the confirmed date.
It's on Paramount Plus right now, but what I love, if you get the physical copy, you get the Blu-ray, you get like all the bonus features that you wouldn't get on streaming. It's what, in my opinion, it's what makes it worth it to like own these movies. So you can, it's worth it for the movie, but it's more worth it for all the cool extra stuff that you get. You get the commentaries, you get the making of, you get stuff that you would never get on streaming.
Absolutely. That's why I always love like collecting like stuff from the Criterion collection and
Hmm.
whatnot. Not just horror, but also just for like movies in general. I always love watching the behind the scenes and what the create is like how the creators came up with their unique ideas or their guiding principles and philosophies, like how they set up certain shots. Actors and actresses discussing their roles in the film, as well as also like the really cool behind the scenes kind of things, like for example, like how did they do like the gushing blood geyser like in A Nightmare on Elm Street? You know,
Hmm.
when Johnny Depp's character killed off. Like
Great
I love.
effect.
Oh, absolutely. So
Awesome
one of my
effect.
favorite horror moments.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So like I love the behind the scenes of that kind of thing. I love learning about that stuff. So it's always cool. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes out on April 5th, which is coming up soon. And for our last, and of course near and dear to my heart, one of my favorite directors, Alfred Hitchcock, and his classics collection, Volume 2 on 4K will be is it coming out on May 10th. The films included in the set are Saboteur, Shadow of a Doubt, is it Marine, The Trouble with Harry, and Family Plot. So expect Mr. Hitchcock to grace your television screens on May 10th.
Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
couldn't resist. So yeah, that's we got a lot of great titles coming out. It's a good time to be a horror fan. So
Absolutely. So thanks again, all you groovy ghoulies. I'm going to close the crypt shut. Till next time.
all
Dave.
right, now that the crypt is shut, that is it for today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming to our Dead Talk. We will be
Yippers.
back next week. I cannot tell you what the topic is next week because it's a secret. So just watch next week and find out. So, as always, like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may just end up with a pitchfork through the eye from an elderly
Ooh.
woman in a barn. Ooh, yeah. That's why you gotta like, share, subscribe.
That's right. That's right.
And, stay scared, all the YouTube stuff. And as I always love to say, every day is Halloween. I really mean that.
And this is your pal Patrick saying to continue to watch horror films, keep America strong, and thank you for watching.